There comes a moment in life when you realize something painful. You have spent so much time preparing for tomorrow that you forgot to live today. You worried about what might happen. You worried about what people might think. You worried about whether someone would stay, whether the money would come, whether the opportunity would work out, whether you were making the right decision. And while your mind was busy building disasters that had never happened, your life was quietly happening without you. Think about that. How many mornings have you opened your eyes already tired because your mind was carrying problems that belonged to next week? How many beautiful moments have you missed because you were standing inside them physically, but emotionally you were somewhere else, fighting imaginary battles, replaying old conversations, predicting painful endings? You can lose years this way, not because life was cruel, but because worry convinced you that you had to suffer in advance to be prepared for whatever came next. But listen carefully. You do not have to ruin today because tomorrow is uncertain. You do not have to punish your present for the mistakes of your past. And you do not have to carry every possible outcome on your shoulders just because you care deeply about your life. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is, I will handle tomorrow when tomorrow arrives. But today I am going to live. Because happiness is not a reward you receive after everything becomes perfect. Happiness is a decision to notice that even in an imperfect life, there are still moments worth holding. There is still sunlight coming through the window. There is still breath in your body. There are still people who love you. There are still dreams that have not died. And there is still a version of you waiting to discover that peace does not come from controlling everything. Peace comes from learning what deserves your energy and what does not. Life has a strange way of teaching us lessons we never asked to learn. Sometimes rejection teaches you that not every closed door is a punishment. Sometimes loneliness teaches you how to sit with yourself without needing someone else to tell you that you matter. Sometimes betrayal teaches you that trusting someone does not make you foolish. It makes you human. What matters is what you learn after the trust is broken. Sometimes failure takes away the identity you built around being successful, only to introduce you to the person underneath it. And sometimes heartbreak leaves you standing in the middle of your own life wondering, how am I supposed to be happy again? The answer is not always immediate. You may have to rebuild slowly. You may have mornings when you feel strong and evenings when old memories return. You may smile at people while carrying questions nobody knows you are asking. You may wonder why someone else seems to have the life you prayed for while you are still trying to put yours back together. That is human. You are not weak because you worry. You are not broken because you have moments of fear. You are not failing because you have not figured everything out. You are a human being trying to make sense of an unpredictable world. But there is a difference between acknowledging your problems and allowing your problems to become your entire identity. There is a difference between preparing for life and constantly fearing it. There is a difference between being responsible and being consumed. You cannot control every person. You cannot control every outcome. You cannot control whether someone understands your heart. You cannot control whether a relationship lasts forever. You cannot control every opportunity, every disappointment, every loss, every delay, or every unexpected turn. But you can control what you do with the day that has been placed in front of you, and that is where your freedom begins. Worry has a remarkable talent for turning possibilities into prisons. It takes one small uncertainty and builds an entire world around it. A possibility becomes a prediction, a question becomes a conclusion, a delay becomes rejection, a silence becomes abandonment, and before anything has actually happened, your heart is already responding as if the worst has arrived. Something might happen. And suddenly your mind behaves as though it already has. You imagine the conversation, you imagine the rejection, you imagine the failure, you imagine losing the person, you imagine running out of money, you imagine everything going wrong. And then your body responds to a future that does not even exist yet. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing changes, your sleep becomes restless. You wake up tired because your mind spent the night fighting battles that were never placed in front of you. You become exhausted by imaginary emergency. Think about the person who receives a short message from someone they love. Can we talk later? That is all the message says. But suddenly the mind begins writing a tragedy. Did I do something wrong? Are they angry? Are they leaving? Did something happen? What if this changes everything? Within minutes, the imagination has created a storm, and an hour later, nothing has happened. The person has not left. The relationship has not ended. The feared conversation has not even taken place, yet emotionally that person has already lived through 10 different disasters. That is what worry does. It takes uncertainty and fills the empty space with fear. And the cruelest part is that the future rarely follows the script your anxiety wrote. How many times have you worried about something that never happened? How many nights did you lose sleep over a possibility that disappeared by morning? How many beautiful moments did you miss because your mind was somewhere else preparing for pain? You have to learn something powerful. A possibility is not a prophecy. Just because something could happen does not mean it will happen. And even if something difficult does happen, you will meet that moment with the strength you have when it arrives. You do not need to borrow pain from tomorrow. You do not need to suffer twice. There is a woman sitting at her kitchen table late at night, looking at unpaid bills. She is frightened. She does not know exactly how everything will work out. For a moment, she feels the familiar temptation to panic. Her mind begins showing her every possible disaster. What if she cannot pay? What if another expense appears? What if things become even harder? But then she stops. She takes one slow breath. She looks at the paper in front of her and separates what she can control from what she cannot. She makes one phone call. She writes down one plan. She decides what needs to be handled first. Then she goes to bed. The problem has not disappeared, but something inside her has changed. She has stopped feeding the problem with panic. That is strength. Strength is not pretending everything is fine. It is not denying reality. It is not forcing yourself to smile when you are afraid. Strength is being able to look at uncertainty and say, I will deal with what is real, not what fear is inventing. There will always be something uncertain, another bill, another conversation, another decision, another unknown chapter. You cannot eliminate uncertainty from life, but you can stop allowing uncertainty to eliminate your peace. If you wait until everything is certain before allowing yourself to feel peaceful, you may wait your entire life. You have to learn how to live in the middle of uncertainty. You have to say, I do not know what tomorrow holds, but I know what I can do today. That sentence can change your life, because today is where your power lives. Today you can make the call. Today you can apologize. Today you can walk away. Today you can rest. Today you can laugh. Today you can forgive yourself. Today you can begin again. Tomorrow will ask for its own strength when tomorrow arrives. Do not spend today's strength answering tomorrow's questions, and when your mind starts creating fearful stories, pause, ask yourself, is this happening right now, or am I suffering over what might happen? That question can bring you back to your breath, back to your body, back to the room you are standing in, back to the people who are actually there, back to the life that is happening now, because sometimes the greatest relief is not solving the future. It is simply returning to the present. The present is where you can breathe. The present is where you can choose. The present is where you can act. The present is where you can still find something beautiful. So let tomorrow come when it comes, when the challenge arrives. Meet it. When the answer comes, receive it. When the door opens, walk through it. But until then, stop punishing yourself for a future you have not reached. You deserve to experience today without constantly preparing yourself for disaster. You deserve moments of peace. You deserve laughter. You deserve rest, and you deserve to live your life while it is actually happening. Do not borrow tomorrow's sorrow. Today has enough beauty of its own. One of the most exhausting ways to live is to make your happiness dependent on someone else's behavior. You wait for the apology. You wait for the phone call. You wait for recognition. You wait for someone to finally understand what they did to you. You wait for the person who underestimated you to realize your worth. You wait for the one who left to come back. And without realizing it, you hand the keys to your emotional life to someone who may not even be thinking about you. That is too much power to give away. Think about how much energy can disappear while you are waiting for another person to change. You wake up and check your phone. You wonder whether they will reach out. You replay the last conversation. You analyze their silence. You ask yourself what you could have done differently. Maybe you convince yourself that if you explain your feelings one more time, they will finally understand. But sometimes the person already understands. They simply do not want to give you what you need. And that truth can hurt more than confusion. There are people who will misunderstand you. There are people who will judge you without knowing your story. There are people who will leave without explaining themselves. There are people who will appreciate you only after they no longer have access to you. And there are people who will never give you the closure you hoped they would. You have to make peace with that. Not because what happened did not matter. It mattered. Your tears mattered. Your disappointment mattered. The nights you questioned yourself mattered. The trust you gave mattered. The love you offered mattered. But your healing cannot depend on the person who hurt you becoming wise enough to understand your pain. Sometimes closure is not a conversation. Sometimes closure is the moment you stop waiting for one. Imagine spending years trying to prove your worth to someone who had already decided not to see it. What a tragedy. Not because you were worthless, but because you kept presenting your value to someone who had no intention of appreciating it. You do not have to audition for love. You do not have to beg for respect. You do not have to become smaller so someone else can feel larger. And you do not have to spend every day wondering why someone chose not to choose you. Let them choose. And then choose yourself. There is tremendous dignity in saying, I loved you, but I will not lose myself trying to make you love me correctly. That is not bitterness. That is self-respect. There is strength in walking away without revenge. There is freedom in no longer checking who viewed your story, no longer rereading old messages, no longer wondering what every word meant, no longer creating imaginary conversations where you finally say everything you wished you had said. At some point, you have to stop living in the courtroom of your past. You do not need to keep presenting evidence. You know what happened. You know what you felt. You know what you learned. Now live. Let your happiness become private. You do not need to prove that you are doing better. You do not need to make someone jealous. You do not need to perform your healing for an audience. Heal because you deserve peace. Grow because you deserve a better relationship with yourself. Move forward because your life is still waiting for you. And understand this. Someone else's inability to recognize your value does not reduce your value. A diamond does not become ordinary because somebody does not know how to recognize it. Your worth was never waiting for another person's approval. You were valuable before they met you. You remained valuable when they misunderstood you. And you will remain valuable long after they become a memory. Sometimes people leave and you think they took something from you. But perhaps they only removed themselves from a place they were no longer meant to occupy. Perhaps their departure created room for you to hear your own voice again. Perhaps losing them forced you to stop abandoning yourself. Perhaps the ending you feared became the beginning you desperately needed. You cannot always choose who stays, but you can choose who you become after they leave. So stop giving yesterday's people control over today's emotions. Do not let an old betrayal ruin a new morning. Do not let someone's rejection convince you that you are difficult to love. Do not let someone's silence make you question whether your voice matters. Do not let someone else's inability to love you properly become the reason you stop loving yourself. You have a life to live. There are mornings you have not seen. There are people you have not met. There are places you have not walked. There are dreams inside you that still deserve a chance, and there is a version of you waiting on the other side of this pain, a calmer version, a wiser version, a stronger version. A version that no longer begs to be chosen because she finally understands that she can choose herself. So release the waiting. Release the need to be understood by everyone. Release the need for every person to admit they were wrong. Release the fantasy that your peace will arrive when someone else changes. Your peace can begin now. Not when they apologize, not when they return, not when they finally recognize what they lost. Now. Because your life is too precious to remain emotionally parked outside a door that may never open. Stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be at peace. You are allowed to choose peace today. We have been taught to believe happiness is waiting somewhere far away, after the promotion, after the money, after the relationship, after the house, after the success, after the big dream finally happens. But what if happiness is not waiting at the finish line? What if you have been walking past it every morning because you were too busy looking toward the horizon? Life is not made only of milestones. Life is mostly made of ordinary Tuesdays, ordinary mornings, ordinary conversations, ordinary meals, ordinary walks, ordinary sunsets. And if you do not learn how to appreciate ordinary life, you will spend your entire existence waiting for extraordinary moments. Think about a mother watching her child laugh at the dinner table. Perhaps there was a time when she wished those dinners were quieter. She wanted everyone to finish eating. She wanted the children to stop making noise. But years later, the house becomes quiet. The chairs sit empty. The voices are gone. And suddenly, she would give almost anything to hear that noise again. That is the strange thing about life. We often complain about moments while we are living them, only to realize their value after they become memories. Think about the person who complains about their small apartment. They dream about a bigger place, more space, better furniture, a beautiful view. Then they finally move. Everything looks better. But sometimes, late at night, they remember the old apartment. The little kitchen, the familiar window, the sound of rain against the glass. The place where they struggled, dreamed, laughed, and began becoming who they are. Think about the friend whose phone call you almost ignored because you were busy. You answered anyway. You talked for 20 minutes. You laughed about something completely ordinary. Years later, you may not remember what you were supposed to be doing that day, but you remember that conversation. We often recognize the value of moments only after they become memories. Do not wait for memory to teach you gratitude. Learn it now. Look around. There is something in your life that you have become too familiar with to appreciate. Maybe it is your family. Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is your ability to walk outside. Maybe it is the quiet of your home. Maybe it is the morning coffee you drink without thinking. Maybe it is the person who keeps checking on you. Maybe it is simply another morning, another chance, another breath, another page. Happiness does not always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes happiness is quiet. It is sitting by a window when rain begins. It is laughing until your stomach hurts. It is hearing a familiar voice. It is eating your favorite meal after a long day. It is watching the sky change colors. It is finishing something you once thought you could never finish. It is waking up and realizing that the thing that once broke you no longer controls you. It is making peace with yourself. It is going to sleep without needing to solve every problem in the world. And perhaps one of the deepest forms of happiness is this: being able to enjoy what is here without constantly grieving what is missing. You can have goals and still appreciate the present. You can want more without hating what you have. You can be ambitious without being miserable. You can dream about tomorrow without abandoning today. There is nothing wrong with wanting a better life. But do not insult the life you have while building the life you want. Do not spend your entire journey telling yourself that this moment is not good enough. One day, this moment will be gone. The people around you will change. Your responsibilities will change. Your body will change, your priorities will change, and some of the things you complain about today may become the memories you would give anything to revisit. So slow down, taste your food, look at the sky, call someone you love, take the photograph, laugh without needing a reason, dance badly, sit quietly, watch the sunset. Let yourself enjoy something without asking whether it is productive. You are not a machine. You are a human being. Your life is not a productivity contest. You were not born simply to complete tasks until your body becomes tired. You were born to experience, to love, to learn, to create, to feel, to grow, to laugh, to remember. And sometimes, being happy every day does not mean feeling happy every minute. It means refusing to overlook the small moments that make life worth living. It means recognizing that an ordinary day can still be a beautiful day. It means understanding that peace does not always announce itself. Sometimes it is already sitting beside you, quietly, patiently waiting for you to notice. So notice. Notice the morning. Notice the people. Notice the little victories. Notice your own growth. Because one day, you may look back and realize that the life you were desperately trying to escape was filled with moments you would have loved to keep forever. Do not wait for life to become extraordinary before you allow yourself to be grateful. There is beauty in this moment, too. There is a particular kind of pain that comes from believing you are too far behind. It is the pain of looking at your life and wondering where all the time went. You look at your age. You look at your mistakes. You look at the years you think you wasted. You look at people who seem ahead of you. And slowly, almost without noticing, you begin turning your own life into a courtroom. I should have done this sooner. I should have known better. I should be further along. I should have made different choices. But listen carefully. Your life is not late simply because it does not look like someone else's. Life is not a race where everyone receives the same map. Some people begin with support. Some begin with obstacles. Some are given opportunities early. Others spend their younger years simply trying to survive. Some discover themselves at 20. Others do not find their direction until 40, 50, or beyond. Do not shame yourself for taking longer to become who you were meant to become. There is a man who spent years working a job he hated because his family depended on him. Every morning he put on the same uniform. Every evening he came home exhausted. He thought he had wasted his life. But he was not wasting his life. He was surviving a chapter. There is a woman who stayed in a relationship too long because she was afraid of starting over. She knew something was wrong, but fear convinced her that an unhappy familiar life was safer than an uncertain new one. There is someone who lost years to fear. Someone who made financial mistakes, someone who trusted the wrong people, someone who gave up on a dream because life became difficult. And then, one morning, something inside them changes. Not everything changes, just their decision. They look at their life and say, I cannot change what happened, but I can change what happens next. That is where transformation begins, not when the past disappears, when you stop asking the past for permission to move forward. Starting over can feel humiliating when you compare yourself to people who never had to rebuild. But there is nothing shameful about rebuilding. There is beauty in it. A person who has rebuilt understands things differently. They understand the value of peace because they have lived through chaos. They understand the value of trust because they have experienced betrayal. They understand the value of self-respect because they remember what it felt like to abandon themselves for others. They know that sometimes walking away is harder than staying. They know that growth is not always glamorous. Sometimes growth looks like deleting a number. Sometimes it looks like applying for another job after being rejected. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed after a terrible night and trying one more time. Sometimes it looks like admitting, I need help. Sometimes it looks like forgiving yourself for being the person you were before you knew what you know now. You have to stop using your old mistakes as evidence that you cannot become someone new. The person who made the mistake is not the same person who learned from it. You have changed, you have experienced, you have learned, you have survived. Your past may explain you. It does not have to imprison you. And happiness becomes possible when you stop demanding that your past be different before you allow your future to be beautiful. You can grieve what you lost and still be grateful for what remains. You can miss someone and still move forward. You can regret a decision and still forgive yourself. You can be disappointed by your life and still decide to love it again. That is emotional maturity, not pretending pain never happened, but refusing to let pain have the final word. So if you are starting again, start quietly, start imperfectly, start with shaking hands if you have to, start without applause, start without knowing exactly where the road leads. You do not need to see the entire path. You need enough courage to take the next step, and then another and another. Let the small steps count. Let the imperfect beginnings count. Let the days when you only manage to do a little count. Progress does not always look dramatic. Sometimes progress is simply refusing to give up on yourself. And one day you will look back at this chapter and realize something beautiful. The life you thought was ending was actually making room for the life you had not yet imagined. So stop asking, am I too late? Ask instead, what can I begin today? Because today is still yours. And as long as you still have today, you still have a place to begin. There is a level of strength that arrives when you stop demanding certainty from life. You realize you may never understand why some people left. You may never know why a door closed. You may never receive an explanation for every disappointment. You may never understand why something you wanted so badly did not happen. And at some point, you have to make a difficult but liberating decision. I can live without knowing everything. That is freedom, because the human mind wants answers. It wants to organize every pain. It wants to know who was wrong, who was right, why it happened, when things will change, what comes next. But life does not always provide clean explanations. Sometimes you simply have to carry the lesson and release the question. You may spend years asking why someone treated you badly, why they lied, why they changed, why they stopped caring, why they walked away. And then one day, something shifts inside you. You realize the better question was not, why did they do that? It was, what will I do with what happened to me? That question puts your life back into your hands, because you cannot rewrite someone else's character. You cannot force someone to regret losing you. You cannot make the past apologize. You cannot travel backward and change the decision you made 5 years ago, but you can decide that what happened will not turn you into someone you do not recognize. You can choose not to become bitter. You can choose not to punish new people for old wounds. You can choose not to live suspicious of every kindness. You can choose to remain soft without remaining unprotected. You can choose boundaries without hatred. You can choose distance without revenge. You can choose peace without needing everyone to agree with you. That is a powerful kind of happiness, not childish happiness, not the kind that disappears the moment something goes wrong. A deeper happiness, a steadier happiness, the kind that says, yes, life has hurt me, but life has also given me mornings. It has given me lessons. It has given me people. It has given me another chance. And I refuse to spend all of that staring at what I lost. You will still have difficult days. Do not misunderstand this. Being happy every day does not mean smiling through every wound. It means developing a relationship with life that is bigger than your temporary emotions. Some days you will cry. Some days you will rest. Some days you will feel lost. Pause. You do not have to fight every emotion. You simply have to remember that emotions are visitors. They arrive, they speak, they pass. Do not build a permanent home inside a temporary feeling. A bad day is not a bad life. A painful season is not your entire story. A closed door is not the end of your journey. And uncertainty is not proof that something terrible is coming. Sometimes uncertainty is simply life leaving room for something you cannot see yet. So stop demanding that tomorrow explain itself before you enjoy today. You may not know what is coming, but you know what is here. This breath, this moment, this opportunity, this life. And maybe peace begins when you stop asking, what if everything goes wrong? And begin asking, what if I can handle whatever comes? Because you probably can. Look at the evidence. You have survived days you once thought would destroy you. You have walked through things you never imagined you could endure. You have cried and still continued. You have lost and still loved. You have fallen and still stood. You are stronger than your fear has been telling you. And now it is time to live like you believe that. So stop worrying about everything. Not because everything is going to be perfect. It will not be. People will disappoint you. Plans will change. Some doors will close. Some dreams will take longer. There will be mornings when you wake up with questions. There will be nights when you wonder whether you are making progress at all. But you do not need a perfect life to have a meaningful one. You do not need every problem solved to experience joy. You do not need everyone's approval to respect yourself. You do not need to know the entire future to take the next step. And you certainly do not need to suffer today for something that may never happen tomorrow. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself laugh again. Let yourself enjoy the small things without guilt. Let yourself walk away from what constantly steals your peace. Let yourself stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let yourself forgive the version of you who did not know better. Let yourself begin again. Let yourself be happy before everything is fixed. Because perhaps happiness was never supposed to be the final destination. Perhaps it was meant to walk beside you, through the uncertainty, through the rebuilding, through the unanswered questions, through the ordinary mornings, through the difficult seasons, through the beautiful surprises. You do not have to wait for life to become painless before you allow yourself to live. There is still beauty here. There is still possibility here. There is still a future you have not met. And there is still a part of you that has not been defeated. Protect that part, feed it hope, give it patience, give it another chance. And when worry comes knocking, do not invite it to move in. Tell it, I have enough to carry today. Then return to your life. Return to the people you love. Return to the work that matters. Return to the dreams that still whisper your name. Return to yourself, because this day will never come again. This exact morning, this exact breath, this exact version of you. And one day, you may look back and realize you spent too much time waiting for life to become easier, when life was already giving you reasons to be grateful. So today, choose differently. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait until every question has an answer. Take a breath. Lift your head, open your heart, and live the day you have been given. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can refuse to let everything that happens steal your joy. And that may be one of the greatest freedoms you will ever discover. To face life honestly, to love deeply, to walk away when necessary, to begin again when needed, to carry your scars without becoming your scars, and to wake up, even after everything you have been through, and still say, I am here, I am alive, I still have today. And today is enough to begin, so breathe. Stop chasing certainty. Stop postponing joy. Stop waiting for life to give you permission to live. The future will arrive when it arrives. The past has already had its turn, but this moment belongs to you. Be here, be grateful, be courageous. And above all, let yourself be happy, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally understand that your peace is worth protecting. You still have today, and today is enough.